G'day, Chiefs. Welcome to the Inner Chief podcast and this very special Minisode on the I Am Great method for executive mastery. Chiefs, I'd like to start with a little bit of a backstory on where all this comes from. Before I do that, if you want to follow along, we've actually created a PDF downloadable resource for you. Just go to chiefmaker.com/I am great. And there is a full resource there. It's all free. Just check it out. And that's got the whole framework in detail with the exercises I will talk about in this podcast. So Chiefs, go and check that out. Now, look, where did all this begin? When I started out working in high performance, I worked both in elite sport and business. But before I got to that, there was a frustration with my own personal journey. And this was around maybe when I was about 26, 27. I really started to become more self-aware. I started reading a lot of books. I think in 2007, I read more than 100 books that year. And I just went through this process of self-experimentation. I did all sorts of crazy things. I went and lived in regional China with the Shaolin monks. I ran across deserts. I had all these amazing experiences. And what I sort of noticed over time was that a lot of this self-help material out there just really didn't give you a great sense of how to build the high performance system. And it didn't appear to be focused on much. Like I would read a book, it would all be about maybe just doing yoga or just becoming a vegetarian. So I went down that path and became a vegetarian for a while and went, oh, look, I feel a bit better, but not materially better over a sustained period of time. And then I was reading things like Tony Robbins' books and everything around high performance. And what I really discovered was that we were missing a couple of core points. The more I looked, the more I realized that the thing that we really, really are trying to get right here is that the goal that we want to create as human beings is excellence and flow. And that appeared to be missing from a lot of the literature in the early days. It's around a lot more now, but it's this process that we are looking for. We're seeking, and that's where humans are at their best, is when we are in flow every single day, or at least as in parts of our day anyway. I'm not going to pretend as though in a modern world we're in flow all day, every day. The second thing that I really came to understand is that everyone peaks and troughs and plateaus, and that is a part of the journey, and it's actually one you don't want to try and feel like you can avoid. We all go through these ups, downs. It's the ebb and the flow, the yin and the yang. That is a part of the process as the body and the mind and the soul all work out what is next for you. And the third is that achieving mastery is a process. And I'll say this, it's actually like a multi-dimensional process. Performance is a system. It requires a lot of moving parts. And so when we assess those parts properly, which is what I'm going to teach you today from an executive mastery perspective, we gain great insight into what we should do next. One of my early mentors in the literature space was W. Edwards Deming, and he was the man that really brought total quality management to the world. And he had this great quote that says, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. And so I reflected on my early coaching and I reflected on my life in leadership roles in the corporate world before I became a coach. I realized I wasn't following any process. I didn't have a framework of excellence. That just didn't exist. And so what I was working was I was making changes quite piecemeal and definitely at times making the wrong moves. So what I've tried to build at Chiefmaker is this process, right? So we try and bring together the best of the best. Like we try and look at the best performers in the world. We then look at the science and the research and what that's telling us. And then we try and turn that into really good coachable models so that at work, in your role at work or whatever you're doing, it makes really clear sense for you. All of the fog or the overwhelm disappears and you can say, that is what I've got to do next to go to my next level. So this is what is behind a lot of the thinking at Chiefmaker, and that's why I hope you understand when we teach this framework today, this is about executive mastery, and it doesn't come from nothing. It comes from a lot of thought. It is my 18th year of coaching, so there's a lot behind what we're teaching. If you haven't got this, please get the downloadable resource, because all these frameworks, and I'm going to talk about a career journey map now, these are really important for you to be able to visualize this. And what we talk about in this career journey map, if you imagine this sort of like a line that goes from the bottom left to the top right, but it's got these peaks and troughs. It goes up and then it plateaus and dips and goes up, then it plateaus and it dips and it goes up and it plateaus and it dips. And at each of these levels, Chief, we have sort of this professional, then a manager, then a general manager, and a chief. And so what we're talking about is progression throughout your career. And so you get these wonderful peaks where you're in flow and you're nailing your job. But what often happens is before you go to the next level, you drop into a trough. Now, a lot of people get stuck there and never leave there. And this is a really important point, Chief, is you might get to a level and end up thinking, oh, this is as far as I'm going to go. And there's a reason for that. Even people might be starting to box you in. And the reason for that is you're not looking at your performance as a system that can be built and refined and changed over time. The key is what made you successful at the professional level, from a track record, from a network perspective, from a game plan perspective, from a habit perspective. That's different to the habits, track record, entourage you're going to have at the next level, and then the next level. So what we need to do is understand that there's this journey of mastery at each level. The journey of mastery at the manager level, it's actually the same framework, but it's different. You've got to rebuild it when you become a general manager. You've got to build new trusted relationships. You've got to build a new track record. You've got to get your habits will have to change. Your routines will have to change at that level. So the key though, Chief, is that, just to be clear, I'm not talking about all of us becoming a CEO. That is not the outcome of Chief Maker. The outcome is you become, or you find the level where you are at the right level for you, where you are in this chapter of life, right? It's about your professional aspirations right now. And you might think, well, I'm at the right level. I just don't want to be in a trough. I want to be in flow. Or, you know what, I'm in flow at this level, but I'm really am aspirational. I want to go one more or maybe even two more. So that is the goal, Chief. Let's find that flow and ensure that you're not battling, suffering, in overwhelm. When you talk, people listen. It doesn't feel like you have no influence. We really want to make sure that you're moving in the right direction. So, Chief, this comes down to our core framework, the I Am Great method. When I launched Chief Maker, I started with this framework, but it didn't have the I Am. It was just called the Great Method. The book that I wrote in 2016, that book covers the Great Method. And that stands for game plan, routines, entourage, assets, and track record. Now, Chief, what I discovered and why I created this particular framework is that there was nothing really out there, particularly you go through schooling, university, that said, how do you become a professional executive? Sure, we might teach you the technical skill of your work, how to become a good lawyer or a good accountant or a good technical professional or a good operator or a good salesperson. Sure, we'll give you that part and how to know the professional, technical and tactical, maybe even social skills. But we don't say, hey, how do you become a highly valued, in-demand executive no matter where you are? It is actually a different framework. And without that, you can miss a really clear part of the performance pie. So this is a generic framework that works for any person in a serious professional role at work. So I'm going to talk through the Great Method part first and then tell you why we added identity awareness and mastery, the I Am. So Chief, game plan is pretty simple. It's in your job. Do you know the direction you're going? Is that linked to purpose and vision? And have you looked at your boss and thought, hey, they're my number one customer. I'm a professional services firm of one and I'm trying to deliver value. That is my career game plan, to deliver value to an organization that aligns with who I am, right? That is game plan. It's really good. You get that right, you become in demand. Then your routines. the habits, the routines, the operating rhythm that you bring for yourself every day to keep yourself focused, in flow, reviewing, reflecting, recovering, and ensuring that all that happens on a day-to-day basis, right? So we want you focused, delivering value, then we want the right routines and habits. The next part is entourage. And entourage is your network, inside the business, outside the business, at home, those that you call upon for help. And entourage is about trust. The more trust you have, the more currency you've got with that, the more value you deliver to all of your entourage, the easier work is, the better it is, and the more value you provide, the more you get back from it. Okay? Then we have assets. This is the technical, the tactical kind of elements of your role, or those wonderful skills that you bring to the table. Also includes experience. And this is your ability to actually then reliably and consistently solve problems. And then track record is, speaks for itself, Chief. This is what goes on your resume that says, hey, when I turned up, it was like this. Now it looks like this. It's objective and it's about numbers. Can you have this bulletproof story you can tell about a change you have made where you brought people on the journey? So, Chief, this is the core part, this great method. And as I said, every time you get into a new role, you've got to rebuild these elements. You've got to get into the game plan. Okay, what's the value prop I can add here? My boss is my number one customer. What's going wrong with them? How can I solve it? What are the routines that I need for this particular job? What's the entourage? Who are the people I've got to influence, gain trust? How can I serve them? What are the skills that I need for this job that are beyond what was in the last job? And what's the new track record I'm going to build? If you get all those elements in place every single time, I absolutely guarantee you're going to have a much more fun and enjoyable career. Okay? Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, that's pretty hard. I'm like, well, choose your hard, Chief. Either you get good at a job and master it, right, and enjoy your career, or don't get great and just sit there and get owned on a daily basis, feel overwhelmed, feel untrusted, feel like people don't come to you for advice. That's hard to live with. I prefer the former, right? Make it hard, like learn. Learning's hard. Mastering's hard. But the more you do that hard, the easier life is in the long term anyway. And the more joy you get out of it and the pride you feel when you walk in the door. So, Chief, we were teaching this model, great method, for quite a few years. And then the more and more I spoke to executives, the more and more I discovered that very often there was a disconnect to their values, what we call their inner chief, their personality, their shadow self, these elements that they're within you every single day and they shape almost all of your behavior. Even though so much of my study had been around this, for some reason, even to this day, I'm not 100% sure how I missed this, but we didn't have this as part of the framework, right? So we live and we learn, and I've added this now, identity, awareness, and my story. And this is, when you look at the framework, this is at the bottom. It's the foundations of the framework. It helps you hold up the framework, the game plan, the routines, the entourage, the assets, the track record in a lot more solid way. When that identity, awareness, and my story is unknown or unstable, then we get real problems. We start to turn up in wrong ways. And I'm sure you've either felt that yourself. You feel like you shouldn't be, you should be somewhere else. You feel like something's happened at work and you can no longer trust the people you work for, but it's a values conflict. Or you feel like you're reacting or overreacting things that maybe you shouldn't be, right? Or people are giving you feedback and you're like, am I really like that? There's an identity, an awareness, and a my story piece here that's vital. We want to create amazing, fantastic chiefs. So Chiefs, as frameworks that remember, if you don't have it, just go to chiefmaker.com /I am great and you can download all of this. Okay, so Chief, what I'm going to do now is dive into each of these elements with just a little bit more detail. Okay, so let's just talk about I am. This is what I was just referring to now, the inner chief. This is your identity, it's your awareness, and it's your my story. And identity is this deeper sense of what you believe to be most true in the world. It's your core values. It's the words you use to describe yourself. It's your identity in the world. And you might think, hey, look, I don't really have some sort of persona identity, but actually you do. People have words for you. You carry that, right? Like I'm a coach, I'm a high performance coach, executive coach. That is actually now part of my identity. And if I took that away, I would just be a slightly different kind of character. It might be good for me to do that, but I've got to think about these things in some serious depth. What about awareness? Awareness is about personality. So do multiple personality models, do a whole bunch, right? Understanding your shadow self, your own biases in the world, becoming really aware of what's going on within you. And last is my story. And the my story part is around the key moments in your life, where you've come from, the people, the influences, not the influencers, there's these key people and events in your life that have influenced where you are now. Who are those mentors, dead or alive, in the nonfiction, in the books you read, or even in the podcast? What are those parts that have really shaped where you are today? Getting to understand your identity, awareness, and my story is so important. What we say is that as a identity, awareness, my story principle is that your outer chief is a reflection of your inner chief. What we mean by that is that who everybody sees every day, who they come across, is a reflection of what's going on inside of them. And I'm sure you've met someone who's in a bit of turmoil internally and you're like, they're struggling right now, or there's an incongruence there that I can sense. That means that the inner chief isn't really turning up in its best way. We all go through those moments. It's, for a lot of us, a lot of days. The more we can work on this, the calmer we become inside, the clearer, the more congruent we become inside. And then the true chief turns up to work every single day, right? Also for our family, for our kids, for our partner. What a wonderful place to be. So we want to almost really focus on this, almost number one, particularly now, chief, if you are looking at a potential career transition, the I am and the game plan are where you've got to start. Because this makes sure that when you transition to a new role, that might be a complete career change because AI and robotics have stolen your job or something, we want to go to a place where you are going to absolutely love it and you have full congruence. So let's just talk about that. I'm going to go to game plan now, and game plan now with a bit of a deep dive. We use this version of the Japanese Ikigai model where we try and find a job that is it's like a Venn diagram, and it's this overlap of what you love doing, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and then what your ideal customer needs. Now, what this means is if I have a job, for instance, that I love doing and I'm good at it, right, and I can be paid for it, that is really good. It's a fantastic thing. I'll get paid to do what I love doing. But if it's not what my ideal customer desperately needs, if it's not one that the customer has a massive pain point around, then I'm not going to get peak of market rates. I'm going to have a good job, but the financial reward might not be there as much. Or if I flip that script a bit, I'm good at it and I love doing it. So once again, we're at this wonderful place. It's really good. I'm really passionate about it. My ideal customer needs it, but they're not willing to pay for it. Right. So this is probably more, you might find not-for-profit space or government space where they really, really desperately need it, but they just do not have the budget and they never will. Right. And so that's okay. Right. You're back to like this kind of place where you'll have fun doing a job, but you'll get minimal or no payment for it. Okay. Now, what about if I'm good at it, my ideal customer needs it, and I can be paid peak market rates for it? Hey, that's fantastic. But if I don't love doing it, if I don't love this particular job, then we're in a real problem because every day is going to be a grind and someone's going to beat me. They can be better at me at this. Or what if I love doing it? Right. This is the last scenario. I love doing it. My ideal customer will pay premium. I'll definitely get paid for it, but I'm not good at it. Man, every single day is difficult. There's going to be someone else who's just an absolute natural. They're coded to do it. They're really brilliant at it. I'm never going to be able to keep up. So what we want to do is try and find one of these roles and guide ourselves on the game plan side to a job where we're able to deliver maximum value because we're good at it, we love doing it, there's good peak of market rates with deep satisfaction there that I can do this job. And it's a bit of a journey to get to this place, right? So Chiefs, our game plan principle, 1, to store away in your brain. I always view this, and this is something I wish I had known early in my career. You are a professional services firm of one. You go to the market and you sell yourself, your services to an organization on a full-time basis. You are a professional services firm of one. You solve a problem, right? And your boss, therefore, is your number one customer from a career sense. Right? I've asked so many CEOs what they think about this particular principle, and every single one says that is so true. Dead true, right? If you can look after your boss as their number one customer, know their problems, and solve them better than anyone else, you are going to have a great career. You have a boss that supports you. Okay, so that brings us to routines. Okay, and routines are operating rhythm, it's a discipline, all the key habits that make you turn up in your job every day with good energy, good focus, and doing a great job. There's a framework we use behind this called Prepare, Perform, Recover, Review. And it just talks about you having a life cycle or a high performance life cycle within your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual kind of job. And it's pretty simple, Chief. It just means that like when you get to work on a Monday, you do your preparation for the week ahead, you perform in key moments, you recover throughout a day and in the evenings, and then you do quality reviews. We have a whole raft of framework detail behind this particular model that if you want to know more about, you can check out through the website. We talk about how to build this life cycle, which we've taken from elite sport, we've brought into business, and we've refined it and changed it because those two worlds are very, very different. We spend a lot of time performing in business. Okay, that's really clear. We know that. So, Chief, the more you get clear on your habits and routines that build great performance, flow, good recovery, great review, so you're continually improving, the better you'll be. As I said, every time you get a new job, you've got to review this. Even within jobs, family circumstances might change. Your kids get older, they change schools, all sorts of things happen. And guess what? You've got to change your habits and routines again. Okay? We just have a little principle, Chief, that says whenever you skip a step in the P2R2 life cycle, that's prepare, perform, recover, review, the whole system fails. If you remove recovery, Chief, then what we get is burnout. If we remove review, then we stop growing and getting better. If we remove preparation, then our performance suffers and we miss the opportunity to really demonstrate how good we are. And if we remove key performances, then Chief, we are simply a spectator at work, right? We're not turning up. Our key performances at work, Chief, are meetings. Any meeting you're ever in is a key performance. And then doing the technical work of your role is the other key performance theatre of executives. Okay, Chiefs, onto entourage. Now, entourage is all about the people in your life that are critical to performance. There's 5 elements. There's board and executive teams, senior members of staff. There's peers at the same level as you, external trusted advisors, suppliers, coaches, mentors, all this kind of stuff, old colleagues. There's the team that report to you at work, and then there's home. And we all know that if any of these people, if there's like a red light, there's no trust here, then we find life and work really hard, right? Business is all about people. It's all about trust. So the more we can create a bit of a map of the level of trust, of the level of value we are adding to all those people around us, the easier our life and our career will be, right? We had Noel Whittaker on the show many years ago now. He has this great line. He says, I just keep giving value to the world and it keeps paying me back with interest. So, so true. So, Chiefs, our entourage principle is this: business is all about relationships. Your trust is built on your likability, your capability, and your reliability. Are you likable? Do people enjoy working with you? Are you capable? Can you do the job with great mastery, those technical and tactical skills? And reliability. Do you do it every day to the same standard? Or do you go missing just every now and then? So, Chiefs, that's entourage. Business is all about relationships and trust. You've got to work on that at every single time you get a new job or a promotion. Which brings us to assets. We talk about the social, technical, physical, tactical, mental assets that are within you. The social skills, the technical skills, your physical body and how strong and fit you are, the tactical skills, the strategic knowledge, and your mental game. Staying focused in flow, long periods of time, being able to deal with complexity and setbacks, things like this. And there's two other elements to this that are important. One is your network and your experience. And so whenever you're in a job and you're sitting there going, hey, how am I going? Am I adding good value? Do I have the assets to do this job well? This is one little lens you can put over to say, hey, do I have the social skills, the ability to influence? Have I got those technical skills? Am I physically fit enough to do this job? Right? Have I got the good tactical and strategic nous? And is my mental game strong? The more senior you get in organizations, I'm going to say that almost all of these get more and more important, and you have to keep reinventing yourself throughout. Okay, Chief, our assets principle actually is one on you, right? We say never outsource your own professional development because in a career sense, most people will tell you that they only get developed when HR puts them on a course. And if we're talking about executive mastery and we're talking about your career, then why would you outsource the development of that to anyone else? Like in the end, that means that your entire mastery process is not even in your hands. Okay? So you need to decide and get a certain percentage of your income that you invest in yourself. And then you go back to your assets and the whole I'm great method and say, where should I grow? Where should I invest some money so that I get better? And then I'll get a salary return later, or I'll get a happiness return later, or I'll get an impact return later. Okay? So never outsource your professional development. Sure, if the company is putting you on programs, that is fantastic. Go and do them. But don't make that the sole source of your development. The last one, Chief, is track record. And anyone who's followed Chief Maker over the years will know that our core framework for track record is actually our high performance teams framework, which talks about mission, people, culture, tools, and execution. Our mini MBA leading high performance teams teaches this framework in depth. If you don't know about that, go to chiefmaker.com/mini MBA and you can find out all the details. But Chiefs, I'll just say this. In every role, you have to build a track record. Every time. Every time you get a new job, and you can't stop building a track record, because one of our principals and one of our great chiefs who's on the show quite a long time ago was Jonathan Ling. He's a CEO of a number of companies, chairman now of a bunch of companies too. One of his lines is, great chiefs create wow stories. If you don't have a track record, no one's talking about you. No one's telling a story about you when you're not in the room. Right? You want people to be telling a positive story because we gave her a chance. And you know what she did? She went and did this and then this and then this, and everybody loved it and we got a great result. Right? Or we had to promote this young bloke and he just did the most amazing things. We didn't think he was capable of that, but what he did was A, B, and C. Great chiefs create wow stories. So when you think about all this together and you think about yourself as a professional executive chief, put this little principle in your mind from Albert Einstein. Stop trying to be a person of success. Try to be a person of value. If every time someone calls you, you are adding value through the quality of your answer, the good questions, the then work you go and do, the tasks you complete on time, on budget, fast, and presenting it to them in a wonderful way, you become a great person of value. And we are drawn to those people professionally. We want someone we can rely upon when time gets tough or when a big challenge comes our way. That is how you think about yourself. So, Chief, as I said, all the downloadable resources can be found at chiefmaker.com/I am great. I hope this has been a help for you. You'll be able to go into that downloadable resource, assess yourself against a framework, create a bit of a plan so that you can actually become a true chief and master your career and life. Righto, Chief, that sums it up for this week. As always, remember to stay epic.